Hello. I'm here again to talk about a build that I think a lot of people have offered variants of, but haven't quite hit what I think is the best open world build for Vindicator. So I wanted to come in and showcase this build a little bit on my Vindicator character. I've been playing this spec a lot since End of Dragons came out, and I think while there's a lot of cool ways to play it, I think this is the way that I find the most satisfying and rewarding and the coolest leveraging of the combat system of Guild Wars 2. So it's a really weird build, and it's gonna make you like it's gonna raise some eyebrows from Buildcraft people because they're gonna be like, that doesn't make sense. Why are you doing that? But it's really cool, and so I wanted to share it because I don't think anyone's playing Vindicator quite this way. So this is a power Vindicator um, build, but it's also full Celestial, and it has access to basically every single boon in the game all at once, permanent uptime, with the exception of Aegis, Resistance, and one other. I can't remember what the other one is. Alacrity, duh. Um, but yeah, so this is a Selly Vindicator power build, and it's like I said, it doesn't sound correct. It sounds incorrect, but it's actually very strong, and this is probably my favorite build open world to play of all time right now. So I just wanted to share it and get some information out about it. So as you can see, it's full Selly with divinity runes, right? Crazy. You have one assassin's piece if you have ascended or legendary armor, and that's this assassin's piece right here, the legs, and everything else is celestial. And you're running dual sword and great sword with energy and accuracy sigils, and everything celestial, like I said. And then you have the relic of the thief. Um, and so what this does is it gives us 50% crit chance and a decent amount of boon duration so that we can leverage some of the cool things about Vindicator solo builds. Excuse me, as we go out into the open world and explore more with this build. So for traits, you're going to take Invocation, Retribution, and Vindicator. So in the Invocation line, we're going to be taking Rising Tide, which is just damage increase as long as you're healthy, um, Rapid Flow, which gives us access to swiftness and a little bit of healing, and then Roiling Mists, which allows us to, with Fury, crit cap at only 50% uh, crit chance. Right, so we hit 50%, but we're crit capped because we have access to Fury and we have the Roiling Mist trait. In Retribution, one second. Yeah, so in Retribution we're taking close quarters just because this first row isn't very interesting. You could take planar protection, but I think it's kind of awkward, and I think close quarters allows you to just leverage the fact that you're a melee only build, and so people outside of your range can't just delete you from afar. You're not going to get sniped out on this build. We're also taking Resolute Evasion, so when we dodge, we gain resolution, right? And Vicious Reprisal, which is this is extending the duration of our resolution, giving us extra damage when we have resolution, and giving us might when we hit things while we have resolution. So it's just a very good, again, leveraging of the combat system to make use of all our different tools on the Vindicator build. And so in Vindicator, we're going to be taking Leviathan Strength, which again is just raw damage for having your endurance bar not being full, and we're going to be dodging a lot, so that makes sense. Song of Arboreum, which gives us access to Vigor and increases the effectiveness of Vigor. And then Vassal of the Empire, which is like the premier open world Vindicator trait. It's going to give us Might, Protection, Chill, and do damage on our dodge rolls. So it's a lot of things packed into one skill that help us with survivability, damage potential, and yeah, it's just basically the jack of all trades trait choice. Okay, sorry. Now what I can do is I'm gonna demo the build a little bit, and so also you can see that I have this food, the Feast of Delectable Birthday Cake, right? And so this is just a good way to get extra stats without having to spend any money on consumables. I'm not a fan of consumables in open world really, but if you have the free one with the birthday gifts here, and you can also use the birthday blaster to get the same stats at a lower uptime, a lower duration of these same stats, the 40 plus 40 and everything, I think. Same as Celestial. And so, alright, so I'm just going to demo the build now, because yeah, I'm talking too much. Alright, spawn a Golem. So when I do open world builds, I usually test on average size Golem, weak enemy, no conditions, and then I spawn. Alright, so I'm just going to go through what I think the rotation is. So the key to this build is to make sure that you're using the Scavenger Burst to get your quickness and your fury as often as you possibly can. And then outside of that, you basically just do kind of like a DPS power rotation. So yeah, I'll just demo this. So you can see we have so much endurance that you kind of almost feel stressed to dodge enough on this build to like keep your uptime for your trait that increases your damage for having your endurance bar not be full. And you could honestly even run this build without the energy sigils, but I think it's just helpful to have a little bit of extra wiggle room on open world builds. I don't think you should be leveraging things that have tight uptimes and tight durations. And so the cool thing is, if you've been paying attention to the boon bar, is we just have so many infinite boons right now. We're in full Celestial gear. We're not doing half bad damage, right? For open world, doing 10k plus damage is very good, especially on a build this tanky. There are definitely builds that can do way more damage than this, but you're going to find that in stressful situations, you're going to have a lot less leverage to do that, and the Golem can be very misleading on how strong your build actually is in the open world. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a second. So you can see 10.3, which again, this, if you ask open world build crafters, they're going to be like, that's kind of low, right? And I agree, it is a little low. There are builds that can do way more. I just demoed an open world Reaper build that can do like 22, 23, 24k damage. But it just doesn't have the survivability that this build does. And so I'm going to demonstrate why that matters. Because again, you could go and you could say, hey, I want to run... Why run Celestial? I don't think that's good. Why can't I just run full Berserker with the same open world leverage, right? A little bit of boon duration so that we can try to maintain quickness. But what you're going to find is that when you're actually taking damage in open world fights, this is going to be not the greatest build for you. You're going to feel overmatched really quickly. You're going to feel like you can't match sustain enough to survive. So I'm just going to spawn this Golem and show you. So again, this is the full DPS variant, and you're going to see it's going to be doing a little bit more damage up front, but as this fight progresses, you're going to see us just start taking infinite damage, and we don't have the tools to sustain through it. And so you see, over time we get out leveraged and we can't survive. So up front, the damage was really good, right? Really good damage up front. You can get like 18, 19k probably, maybe 20 if you're really crazy. But it just won't last, right? We start going downstate and our damage falls off. So in contrast, if we go back to, hold on, current golem, blah blah blah, do this, go back to this build, right? In contrast, on the celestial build, right, the damage is lower, but you're gonna see that even with this moderate damage pulsing, we basically just don't even care that it's there. So I'm gonna show that to you now. And so you see, even with the damage pulsing, I actually did about 800 more damage on that pull just because I was doing the rotation better, a lot cleaner, and I wasn't messing around with the mic and stuff. But again, this is just a really insanely strong open world build that has immense survivability, and despite its lower damage profile, has a lot of unique quality of life elements to the build that make it very strong in open world. And so that's why I think this build, despite being a little bit a weird leveraging of the Guild Wars 2 combat system and buildcraft, is probably my favorite build in the game. It just has so many options, and so I'm going to go out and showcase how this build works in practice, right, in real time. So we're going to go out and do just a few things. This first one is just the test I do on all open world builds. End of Dragons has been really good for testing builds in this regard because you can go into the training golem room there and test out just like a damage pull or rotation, maybe with a little bit of damage pressure on you. And then you can also go to the hero points. The one that I go to is this platform just outside New Kainang. And this one's really good for testing out builds. It spawns an elite enemy for the hero point commune very regularly. It's on a very low respawn timer. And so you can go here and you can check out how your build's going to work in single target combat in an open world build. So we're going to do that. And we've got a good spawn here. One it has protection, so it's going to look like it's taking a while. But just know that this is, it's still going well. For some reason, chill bugs these out right now, I think. I think it's chill that's doing it. And I didn't put enough quickness on in the front end. You wanted to get at least two bursts on the front end. But as you can see, we have infinite boons. We don't even need to use our healing. Again, this one's kind of bugged, so it's not the greatest example. I'm gonna go to one that's that might not be bugged. We'll see. We'll see if this one's bugged as well. It could be. But yeah, for whatever reason, those champions, those hero point challenges are bugging out when I chill them. I think it's chill that's doing it. So we'll test another one.
Come, Outlander, learn of King Joko, bringer of peace.
So I actually hate this hero point because all these scarabs, and it's actually such a weird
Forgive us, King Joko. We
fight.
want to come home. Take us back into your kingdom.
We're gonna have another person here, but I think it'll be okay.
Give yourself to King Joko.
It's just annoying CC here. And again, we've got a friend here helping us. We're gonna see what happens when this person goes away, if we can replay it. I'm not sure if it'll let us do it again. But there's more if it doesn't let us do it again. Let's hope they go away.
Forgive us, King Joko. We want to come home. Take us back into your kingdom.
Alright, cool. They went away.
Do anything to return to your good graces.
We were wrong to ever leave Alona.
King Joko grants no
Alright.
second chances.
We have a
There's another one. There's another one out here
are sabotaging our pipes.
Why would
that I
they
can
do
do. There's a
that?
Jin
Just please, hear me out.
who should be a good
Our families
good
and friends
showcase.
are depending on us to get their water flowing again as soon as possible. As always,
They talk
be
a
alert
lot
for
in that event.
unwanted
Wow.
attention from the wildlife out here.
May I be excused? I think I'm needed back in the city.
All right. Get to work, everyone. Watch out for yourselves out there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of variants of Vindicator open world builds. A lot of them Condi, and I think the Condi is just like less fun. Basically, I'm really a big fan of following the fun on open world builds, and so even if something's strong, if it's not fun, I don't think there's any point in playing it. Again, I didn't hit the quickness enough, so I'm actually gonna hit this ability and try to.
The air attends
didn't
my
do it right.
will.
Yep, there's the Hydra. Hi, Hydra.
Even the power of water is at my command.
He's gonna try to ruin our day, but it really doesn't matter on this build. We just have too many tools.
The magic here is unstable. I'm returning to my body.
So you see, this build's really easy to leverage. You have lots of tools. You have stun breaks. You have Condi cleanses. If you switch over with the alliance tactics, which now has a 3-second cooldown, which is actually really crazy that it's so low. This person spawned the event again. But as you can see, even in extended fights, we have really good
The
tune-up
air
time.
attends my will. Even the
And you
power
can
of
change
water is at
Jalis
my
to
command.
Malix if you need Moon Rip. Or you can change to Shiro, but I think Shiro's really bad in open world. I think his spells just cost too much,
The magic
and so he's
here
not my
is
favorite.
unstable.
But as you can see, we just have
return to
infinite
my
boons.
body.
We do decent damage, and we're allowed to leverage that in interesting ways. The build has tons of mobility. You're never going to feel like... You're not going to feel like you're just deleting things, which is good, in my opinion. But you're also not going to feel like you aren't doing anything. You have good cleave. You have good heal skills on all 3 of your legend channels. You have stab. You have might, protection, regen, resolution, swiftness. Anything you need, right? That just like it basically didn't even look like anything touched us that whole time because the build's just so strong. And so I want to show one more thing with this build to showcase that it works in more dynamic encounters. So we're gonna do one of my favorite little story mission fights, which is the June fight in End of Dragons. And so I'm gonna get us there real quick. 1 second. Path of Fire has all those anti-mount enemies, so it's hard to get out of combat, even with a mount, even with the flying mount, even with the in-combat mounting. So we're going to do this June fight, and I think it's a good showcase of what story fights can do that aren't necessarily group encounters. I think this is still my favorite fight of all of End of Dragons, and so we're going to do it because I think it's a good showcase for how an open world build can work and be used by you in story. So at this point in the story, Aurene can't save Suwan anymore. She's trying her hardest to keep her from being consumed by the void, and we have to convince June to help us fix the extractor to pull the void out of Suwan and give Aurene enough time to assume the role as the One Elder Dragon and put Suwan out of her misery for good without releasing void on the world. And so we fought Minister Lee. He turned out to be a purist, and now we have to convince June that we weren't trying to sabotage her, and she's not going to trust us because the last time she saw us, she lost contact with us while we were in her little factory reactor. We stole her Elder Dragon and ran away and didn't talk to her again for like 2/3 of the story. And so now we're back here and we're like, sup, we think we have an audience with her, but Taimi has just let us into her house, and so she's super freaked out, rightfully so. She's questioning whether she can trust us, and so now we're going to confront her and tell her what we know, and she's going to get mad that we don't think she can fix the problem herself. Alright, so there's some talking at the beginning. I think this is probably the most misunderstood scene in the whole End of Dragons because you need to read a lot of supplemental resources within June's Mansion to understand it. But again, it's one of my favorite fights. I think Erika Ishii did such an amazing job voicing this character, and June's probably one of my favorite non-Dragons Watch characters. And even after Soto, I think still probably one of my favorite non-Dragons Watch characters in the entire game. So
Minister Lee of the Ministry of Security has been arrested. Details are still emerging. The reports are that the powerful Tyrian known as the Commander may have been involved.
So, Commander, you're going around arresting state officials now?
Lee attacked us. He's a purist.
I know. He couldn't have made it more obvious if he'd walked around carrying a bust of Reiko herself. What happened?
We brought him proof we were innocent. He preferred we keep looking guilty.
And I suppose you brought that proof here?
Yes. A piece of Anka's extractor.
So she inherently trusts us a little bit, but she's spooked because in her mind we could have killed Mai Trin and stolen Suwan because we think we know best, and so she's trying to figure out how much she can trust us and what she can do about it. So at this point she's kind of like calmed down a little bit and she's maybe willing to trust us, but you're gonna see how our two egos as saviors of the world we're both kind of in that role at this point on different ends conflict, and how we kind of think we know best, and we do, but June's always been told that she doesn't know best, and so she's going to push back against us for telling her that in this instance.
Commander, it seems I owe you an apology. You really had nothing to do with it.
Thank you, but we don't need to waste time on apologies. We need to discuss potential solutions.
Potential solutions? I have a solution. Tiny and I have been working on the means to recapture Suwon and restore the reactor.
June, I'm afraid recapture isn't an option.
And I'm afraid not recapturing isn't an option, Commander.
Suwon's magic is all but completely corrupted by the Void.
I've been working on a way to increase the efficacy of my filtration system. It's nearly there.
It's too late. You can't.
Don't tell me what I can't do. Our batteries only have enough power left for weeks, months maybe, and then everything stops working. Do you know what that means?
I will not allow you to put her back in that reactor.
Then I guess we're at an impasse. I don't want to do this.
Alright, so now she's kicking
But
us
we
out.
need that reactor. People will die if those batteries fail.
Everyone will die when Suwon succumbs to the Void.
I won't let that happen.
So she thinks she can save Suwon and keep Kantha as this kind of global technological superpower, but we know, because we've talked with other people, that she can't do that, and so that is too late. She's not seen Suwon since she got released and got flooded with marine magic by Anka, and so she doesn't know that she's not able to be saved.
Gonna need you to flip a few switches for me, though. Commander, hold off the mechs. I'll try to override the system and find us a way to shut it down.
Tiny.
So you see June kind of become the villain in this instance for a brief moment, but it's all really a misunderstanding and just mismatched expectations and mismatched information is really the key difference here. Is she doesn't know what we know
Commander,
about Suwon anymore.
You know what to do.
How did you...
So again, focus on our boons and how we're able to move around this facility and deal with all the different enemies. Stun breaks and just high damage.
Total Tiny. We've been working on this together. You verified my results.
Yeah, I did. But the variables have changed. And the corruption is so much worse than we were accounting for. There just isn't time to make your way work. But the commander's got a solid plan to reconstruct Anka's extractor.
A plan that would bring Kantha to his knees. Or maybe that's been the goal all along.
So now she's being paranoid a little bit. Timey's really trying to help her understand. And another thing I didn't talk about is on Greatsword you have a block, so...
None of you understand. You can't even comprehend what I've achieved.
So you can see, nothing in this fight is going to stress us out, really.
I will free us from the tyranny of the dragon cycle. I saved this empire, and you're going to destroy it with your feeble imaginations.
So she thinks we're just not thinking hard enough about the solution, and we're trying to tell her too soon that it's an unwinnable battle. But we know, because we've talked with our Elder Dragon friend, that Suwon's too far gone, and that this is how we end the cycle. Is our way, is the only way. It's the way of prophecy. Yeah, we are having trouble convincing her of that. It's going to take Timey. Timey's the only one who can get to her, but... Bot.
Engaging hostiles.
I just like the epicness of this fight. There's so many moving parts. It's such a good... It's a tour de force of just like the Guild Wars 2, just everything about this game. Combat system, leveraging the combat system, having this like unique like room that changes shape and dynamic height elements to it. All the different interactables and using the Jade bot to its fullest potential here. Lots of dialogue help. So what we're supposed to do is we step here and we use the Jade bot and fire this little thing here. And you can do this fight a lot faster. Like, I've actually messed around with speedrunning it a few times, and it's a really fun little challenge, is to speedrun this fight.
That's the last year security, June.
Alright, so we beat our security, and as you can see, this build, we never felt pressed in combat in this build. We barely even had to use our healing skill because we maintained regen uptime by switching. So yeah, so Timey's going to convince June that it's too late for her plan and that she needs to help us with ours, and yeah, so this is Vindicator. Very good, very strong build. Celestial, almost full Celestial Vindicator, power build, lots of mobility, infinite boons, very survivable, lots of healing. You can leverage anything you want about the combat system. I think this is the best build for someone who really wants to understand how Guild Wars 2 combat works. Is this Vindicator build. You'll learn a lot about the game playing this, and there's so much room to get better as a player on this build, despite it being so easy and survivable. So I just wanted to showcase it, give a little demo of the build and explain why, even though it's a power build, Celestial's still the go-to for a build like this. So yeah. So anyway, this is Power Celi Vindicator. Very strong. Tell your friends. Bye.